Elvis, and welcome to another episode of the Pro Hockey Pod, episode 17. This week, another D3 athlete. Lots of these on the podcast. Common theme, guys overcoming the stereotype, shedding the D3 label, proving that it is also a good route. Sometimes you have guys who are late bloomers and they end up going farther than the guys who play D1. Uh, this week we have Nick Miglio on. So Nick is currently playing in DL2 and Selb for the Wölfe, where I was working this year. But we actually met each other back briefly playing against each other in the D3 route and then also in Rapid City. But we'll get all to that later. Welcome to the podcast, Nick Miglio.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Glad you could be here. So, as I always like to start off, we go back to the roots, right? So, believe you were born in San Antonio, Texas. So, not exactly screams hockey when you say that out loud. Texas, hot weather. Is that kind of where you grew up, and how did you get involved in hockey?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually born in Colorado, right outside of Denver, but I only lived there for 3 or 4 years. I didn't have anything to do with hockey when I was there. My parents said I had three imaginary friends when I was like 3 years old, and one of them was hockey. I didn't even know what it was. It just used the word. No, but I started all my hockey in San Antonio. My dad's from Chicago, but he was a baseball player, oddly enough. Watched the Mighty Ducks, and then was begging my parents to take me to a game. So I went to a game and kind of fell in love with it. And then the next day went to learn to skate, and that was it.
So speaking of the Mighty Ducks, then you brought up a funny scenario. What was your go-to? Were you the knuckle puck guy, or were you the triple deke?
I don't know. I was obsessed with Fulton Reed back in the day. I loved the his slap shot, and then obviously Dwayne Robertson in the movie was from Austin, and he was roping guys. But I don't know. Yeah, probably a knuckle puck.
That's funny. Guy is fascinated with a guy who takes a slap shot. And I think you've taken three in your life,
Yeah,
but
literally.
anyways, back to you growing up. So, as you said, you moved to San Antonio there when you were about 3 or 4 years old. How was the minor hockey like system back then? Like, has it come a long way since then? Like, was there a lot of people playing hockey when you were growing up?
Man, it was a joke. Like I think I started in like Might House or whatever. Like we just played like the two local teams in San Antonio, like the House League, and we didn't even have a official size rink like or a stadium. Like so, there was one rink where I learned to skate, and it was probably like a 3/4 sheet, like something you'd see like skill sessions done on now. And then the other sheet was like a 3/4, like not official width, not official length, like it was a complete joke. Like the place was called the Crystal Ice Palace, and then people still refer to it as the Crystal Meth Palace now. But yeah, it turned into a Goodwill. And then when I was like a peewee, so probably like 2001, something like that, the Rampage came in. They were like I think there was the Iguanas and the Dragons, and that was like CHL or WPHL or IHL back in the day. And then I think 2000, 2001, the Rampage came to town, and that was an AHL facility, and they needed to build them a brand new like training facility and stuff. So then I benefited from that, and that's kind of hockey jumped from there. But no, it was okay. We traveled around Texas. We played like random teams. Like it was all like teams in the Central League that had their youth programs there. So like Odessa, and they kind of all transitioned to the North American Hockey League from there. But Odessa, Amarillo, El Paso, and then you have your Dallas and Houston, and those were always like the best teams.
Well, it kind of reminds me, you just said like when the Rampage eventually came there, obviously stuff gets built because it has to support the pro team. Kind of like what happened in Vegas, you could say. Like
Yep.
Vegas wasn't really that popular with hockey, and then it just exploded with the Knights. Obviously, a bigger example there. But did you go to a lot of Rampage games growing up?
Yeah, so many. Like I didn't. I think I've been to maybe 5 or 6 NHL games. So that was my NHL.
Mm.
I couldn't even tell you how many I went to. Like when I was home and not traveling around, I went to games, and we always knew people because the hockey community in San Antonio is so small. So I always had free tickets, and then would see the guys at the rink and skate around with them. And then it's it's a big small town. Like I think San Antonio. I think there's like 7 million people here, but it's a small knit community. So I'd see these guys out, and yeah, my dad worked for them for a little bit too. So I'd get equipment from them, and yeah, it was good for the hockey that they moved here. And then oddly enough, like you were saying with Vegas, they moved to Henderson like 3 years ago, and they're the Silver Knights now. So
Mm-hmm. But
small world.
at that time, would you say that because of them, like it got more people like definitely interested in playing hockey?
Definitely, for sure. And then it's a military city. Like this is Military City, USA. You have 6, 7 bases in San Antonio. So you have the people who come in from wherever they've lived with the military and then get their kids into hockey for a couple of years. And yeah, it definitely sparked. I mean, it's the same thing that happened with me. I went to a game, and even now, like, or I guess the last 4 years or so, like people would say they were at a Rampage game and they saw it and liked it, and then they want learn to skate classes. So
It's a benefit of the game, man.
yeah,
People not familiar with it and they see it, and it's addicting. It's a definitely a cool sport. Um, so after kind of learning to play hockey, working your way up, and this is somewhere you would know more than me. I'm obviously a Canadian, so we have different minor hockey systems, but you played a little bit for the Chicago Mission, Russell Stover. So just explain, I guess, for me and anyone listening who's from Canada, like these teams you're playing for, like I know they're in a lot of tournaments. Like you guys are obviously going to every tournament you can. Is there also like a league you guys are playing in? And like how does the structure work in those teams?
yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of a funny story. I'll tell a little bit before that too. I got cut from the midget team here when I was a first year midget. So San Antonio, Texas, I was one of the best kids in the program by far, and it was my first year midget, and I got cut from the team, which I thought was crazy. So I had nothing. I was thinking about quitting. I was playing football in middle school slash high school because I was like the eighth, ninth grade. It's weird here. Ninth grade was half middle, like we went to school at the middle school, but our sports were through the high school. So I was doing that, and I thought about quitting, and then I got an opportunity to play in the Western States Hockey League, that Tier 3 junior league, which now looking back, it was a joke. But for me, I was 14, I just turned 15, and I was playing with 21-year-olds and men, essentially. So I got the chance to skate with them, and that kind of made my career jump, to the next level because I was on the ice every day. There was morning skates. I was playing against grown men. Yeah. So, anyways, I played 2 years there, and once I realized that I needed to get out of there, I went to the Mission. But yeah, we have a set league like for it's midget AAA. So I think at the time it was the Midwest Elite Hockey League, and like some of the names that I played against in that league, like it's I don't know, essentially where everyone goes before junior hockey or the USHL, or if they go to Canada to play in one of the major junior leagues. But yeah, we played. There were teams like there were regions, I guess. So I was in the Midwest one, so it was like a really strong one. It was Chicago, Detroit, Wisconsin. I don't know, the whole Midwest, and yeah, we'd go each weekend. There was a new tournament in a new city, so it was pretty expensive with all the traveling and flights and stuff. But we'd go to Colorado and play against the West, so there'd be teams from California, Vegas, Arizona. I think Texas was in that one at a time. And then we go out east. We play like against all the Massachusetts team, or to Pittsburgh and play against the Flyers and the Junior Penguins and all that. But no, it was really really competitive. Like I think Rocco Grimaldi, TJ Tynan. I'm trying to think who else. I think Kachuk was in that league. I don't know, a bunch of names. If you go and elite prospects and look, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Kachuk I know was there because they during the playoffs I think he was playing against when they were playing against Toronto. I think the third goalie, for some reason I can't think of his name right now, the goalie that had to go in because of Samsonov getting hurt, they were on the same team, and like when they were like 14 or something, and I
Yeah.
think they showed a picture, but that's pretty crazy. Another another thing I wanted to say, like doing that at a young age, it obviously like kind of prepared you for like, kind of down the road and pro because you're traveling so much, right? Like,
Mhm.
someone like myself, we're going maybe 2, 3 tournaments a year, but we're playing, our farthest drive was probably 50 minutes, like in our league, but then like tournaments or whatever. But you guys were, getting a lot of traveling, as you said.
Yeah, it was really cool. That's why I'm not like the travel thing doesn't phase me at all, as I've been doing it since I was 16 years old. We'd be traveling to different cities and planes and buses, and we made the most of it. We had some fun when we were traveling, and we were pretty spoiled. We always traveled pretty nice, like flights and We'd have a team bus that would pick us up. Like it was pretty fancy, and my parents fit the bill for that. And they treated it as like to get me to college. So that was like my like how people pay for college. That was to get me to college. So and it luckily worked out, and I'm very thankful for that. And yeah, it was an awesome experience.
Well, parents, man, the sacrifices they make for their kids, whether it's time, financial, you know, it's all for the benefit of hoping that one day they get to do something that obviously you're still doing today, which I think is great. Joseph Wall is the goalie. I just remember the name. I wish I had known that before. But one question I had for you, you brought it up before. Major, junior, some guys go to Canada for that. Was that ever on your radar, or were you always thinking, I want to get a scholarship one day, whether that's the D1 route or D3 route?
It was. I know my parents always wanted me to go to school and get an education because my dad played professional baseball, and that's something he regrets. Is he signed a major league contract with the Cubs right out of high school. So he looks back, and after playing, he played 14 years professionally. So after looking at that, and he was out of a job, when he was done, and he coaches and stuff, but he wanted me to get my education, and that was important to him. But no, I'd looked at it. There's a school I think in Canada, Notre Dame, that
Mm-hmm.
prep school academy.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at going to that, and I know if I probably did that, that would have maybe put me in the major junior route or something. And I had looks and stuff at going to the BC and stuff, but nothing ever serious. I think I just wanted to play the highest level of hockey that I could have played. There's a camp I did in British Columbia. Maybe you heard of it, Global Showcase
Mm-hmm.
Camp. So we'd go. I don't know. I got scouted at a thing in Dallas. We had a tournament there, and some guy with a folder or clipboard came up to my parents and was talking to them. And looking back now, maybe it was a moneymaker, but we did it and went up there, and it was all kids from Canada and all over the U.S. And you play a bunch of scrimmage games. They put you on teams, and just a big showcase tournament. And I did that like 5 or 6 years in a row. But it actually, and it was in British Columbia, so there were lots of the BC and Western League coaches there and stuff. So I don't know. I talked to some of those teams, but nothing ever serious. And after midgets, I got drafted in the NAHL. So that was, yeah. I just kind of went that route. I just kind of went where I was wanted.
Did you ever, speaking of tournaments, did you ever play in the Chowder, the Boston one, like the famous?
No, never.
No.
I don't know how we never played in that. I mean, there were multiple ones that we played in with the Mission and Russell Stover, but never played in that one.
Yeah, I just remember like it was obviously like kind of like a summer one, like after the season, and
Oh, that's right. Okay, so it is like a tournament team thing.
yeah, well, it's just literally one weekend. So it was the point of it was it's to get everybody together. There's I don't know how many teams there are, 100 maybe, and the point is all the scouts for whether it was NCAA or maybe late bloomers to junior could go and see these kids, and then they're on their radar for wherever they're going after. I just wondered if you had ever done that because it's always
No,
in
the only
Boston.
the only ones we did was like Nike Bauer, which was in Chicago, and then Silver Six, which I think
Yeah.
they have all over. But no, I never did that one. Sorry, that's my cat. I
All
have a
good.
talking husky and a talking cat.
A little banter in the background's never bad. Um, so then after, yeah, after you played midget there, you went and played 2 years, as you said, in the NAHL for the Bismarck Bobcats. So you went at kind of an older age there. So, you're 19 turning 20, and then you end up playing your also 20-year-old turning 21-year-old year. Um, was that just kind of, how it was for a lot of kids back then, or just you were kind of, would you say you maybe were like a late bloomer?
Yeah, it's actually funny because I said I played 2 years of junior in the Western States League. So 2 years of junior, then went back to midget
Mm-hmm.
and then got drafted. I was actually Mr. Irrelevant in the NAHL draft. I was the last pick overall. So I was on Twitter, and that was when Twitter was kind of like new at the time, like in '09 or '10 or something like that. And it said the draft has ended. There's no more picks because I talked to a bunch of teams. We went to nationals the few months before with Russell Silver. We beat Shattuck. We got third. So I was like, and I had a great tournament. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get drafted. And the whole draft went. It said, okay, the draft has ended. I fell asleep. I was like crying. I was like, what am I going to do now? And then I refreshed it like 2 hours later, and it said new post from NHL, and then it said Bismarck has selected Nick Miglio. So it said last pick, and then it said that they selected me, or that the draft was over, then they selected me. But yeah, that was the way. Like if you played your years of midget, then you went in that way. I was lucky that I played those 2 years before because I went in and I wasn't a rookie. Guys said that it was like a lower league, so they gave me like half status. So I wasn't a rookie and I wasn't a vet, so I didn't have to do all the rookie stuff. So yeah, but that was it was a good time. I had a lot of fun up there.
Yeah, I mean, you played 2 years there, and then at this point, were you talking to a lot of schools? Like, was there both D1 and D3 interest? Like, did you go on many visits? Like, how was that experience for you? Because that's obviously, you know, as a kid playing junior, and once your sight is set on playing NCAA or school of any type, like those are the exciting times, talking to these guys after games, going on visits, stuff like that.
Yeah, there was always a tournament at the beginning of the year, and it was a big showcase in Blaine, Minnesota, and every team from the NA was there. And it's like a bunch of scouts and stuff there because you have all those Minnesota schools, and everyone would travel there. So that was like your big time to shine. And then later on in the year, they would have like for the older guys like a top prospects tournament where each team could send 3 or 4 players or whatever. But no, I was talking to schools here and there. Like I talked to Cornell for a little bit, and then Minnesota Duluth, and Air Force was the big one, Division 1 that I was talking to, and then American International, but nothing ever like serious. Like I have a few talks with them, and then I don't know, things would kind of phase off. I wasn't like a points guy in juniors. I was third line, fourth line, like in and out of the lineup. So I wasn't really a guy sparking interest from Division 1 schools, and then plus they would go after USHL kids first. No, I had a bunch of Division 3. Like I probably had my pick of Division 3 schools. So St. Norbert's was a big one that I was talking to, and we were always in that kind of area near them playing games. But the big one was St. Mary's in Minnesota that I was talking to. The My second year in the Western States League in San Antonio, the coach Ryan Egan, he ended up moving up there, and he was the assistant coach. So I knew him, and they were at a bunch of my games, and I was like the guy they were going after, and they were, throwing a bunch of stuff at me, trying to get me to come there, recruiting wise, and saying I could play for the golf team, and because he was the golf coach too, play hockey and golf and do all this stuff. And then yeah, Utica kind of just fell in my lap at the end of my second year. Um, a friend that knew someone that coached there talked to me, and I didn't commit there till the end of July. So ended up working out. I was very lucky and fortunate because I don't know if my hockey route would be the same if I didn't go there or play for like a more recognized school in Division 3.
I mean, Utica definitely, like, seeing we played against each other. I believe you were a freshman when I was a senior. So I mean, they had the big nicer rink, and back then there was no AHL team there yet, at least in the years that I played. So like it was packed every night. Great atmosphere, always good teams too. Like I believe that year we both went to the Frozen Four.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, how was your experience there for the 4 years? Like, how was it? Was it more of a like, was it a campus school, or like, are you in the middle of a city and like your building, like some of your buildings are classrooms as well? Like, how did it work for in Utica?
I loved it there. It was like the best 4 years of my life. Met some friends that'll be in my wedding someday if I ever have a wedding or whatever, and friends for life, and still enjoy going back there. But it was like it was a very small school. Like I think it was like 4,000 undergrad, something like that. That number may be off, but I know it wasn't like over 10,000, like five, six, something like that. But it was all like sports school, so it was a small Division 3 school, and it was all kids that came from like New York City or upstate New York that would want to play like Division 3 sports. And um, I think there's a big difference between Division 3 hockey and Division 3 football. So it was we were kind of the big dogs on campus, walking around, and we would play in that building, the Odd, and play in front of 4,000 people, and the football team would play in front of 500. But it was a blast, and I think um, I don't know. I think most people lived on campus, like most of the athletes and stuff, and everything is right there, so you don't even need a car. But our arena was off campus. It was downtown, which the whole city, like from one end to the other, is maybe a 5 minute drive. So we were 5 minutes to downtown, and the cool thing about our arena being off campus is that you could sell alcohol there. So that was the big thing. We get the townies, we get the students, we get all the fans, and sell out 4,000 a night. And when the Comets came to town, that was in my sophomore year. They started the year like 0-15 or something. They were getting booed out of the building, and we were drawing bigger crowds than them as a Division III program over an AHL team. So that was really cool. We'd see them out at the bar, and I don't know, guys would be bumping shoulders and kind of chirping and stuff. And I mean, little did we know some of those guys were making $1 million to be in Utica, and we were paying to or whatever Division III hockey. So it was a good time though.
Hope some of your guys weren't buying them drinks. Little did they know.
No, definitely not. I know Markstrom was there one of the years, and he was making like 1.1 to be in Utica. And then there were a lot of big names that I think JT Comfer.
Hmm.
This could be way off, but I feel like I recognize that name. I think he played for Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
I think
No,
he was,
he's in Colorado now, I believe.
yeah, maybe not Comfer. I could be way off. Did he play for Vancouver?
I don't remember. I know like a buddy of mine, kind of similar last name, like Conacher, had
I know
played.
he was there,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
too.
was there.
And it's funny too that I was that like later on, I know we'll get to this. I played in the East Coast Hockey League, and there were guys that like played in Utica at the time that I was playing college hockey there. And we
Hmm.
talked like, "Oh yeah, where'd you come from?" Like, "Yeah, I came from Utica." And they're like, "Oh, okay, I was there too." And I was like, "No, I was the college team." And then they kind of like get a weird look, but it's funny.
No, it was the same. Like in Oswego, like Syracuse was 40 minutes. So like one time, you know, Connolly came down with Johnson, like all those guys at that point were young before they'd made NHL, and it was, same thing. Like they had a night in Oswego and it's a good time, but they were, obviously a good team, and they went on to have a lot bigger careers than any of us did.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, did you think going at a 21 kind of helped you? Like you were more prepared for college? Because, that's always the debate of people is, should I go as a true freshman? Should I go 19, or should I wait till I'm in my 20s to make sure that I'm both physically, mentally, and also professionally ready for the grind of both being a student athlete?
Yeah, definitely. We always said that while we were in school. Like, I'm so happy that I didn't go as a 18-year-old. Like, there's no way physically, maybe, I don't know, I matured a little bit from 18 to 21, but mentally, like just being mature. And I know even looking back, like that's 10 years ago, that was I really that mature then? But I think there's a lot of maturity going on from 18 to 21. And then especially us being legal and able to drink and go do things, I've gotten it out of my system playing junior hockey. Like it wasn't my first beer in college, and you could see some of those kids like when they'd be out or you see them on campus, and they're just so immature and like in class. Like I know that if I didn't get good grades and I didn't pass or get A's and B's, that I wasn't going to play on the weekend. So definitely glad that I went there a little bit more mature than at 18.
What did you study? Like what did you graduate with?
So I went in. Our assistant coach, Giuliano Pagliaro. I don't know if you know that name. He's a goalie. He played at
He,
Holy Cross.
no, he went to Niagara. I took his place
Niagara.
after. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know Pegs.
Yeah. So I think he coached at
Yeah, he did.
Holy Cross after. Yeah, he took me around. Like I didn't even go on a visit to Utica. I had no idea what I was going to study until I like was there, and I was like looking at degrees like 3 days before classes. And he's like, well, here, why don't you sign up for therapeutic recreation? And I was like, what is this? He's like, yeah, I don't know. You get more money for your scholarship if you do this. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do this. So I get there first day, and it's like, it was different. It's just not what I want to do, but it's like basically like it is what it is. Therapeutic recreation. So it's therapy for like, I don't know. So it'd be like stuff for like games and stuff for people in nursing homes to do. Like if you have like um Parkinson's, like stuff to get them like working
Hmm.
with. I don't know. It was not what I really wanted to do. So I changed to health science, and luckily I could change some of my credits over. Which health science, it was all it's a big nursing school, nursing and physical therapy. So I had a bunch of nursing. I took all the nursing classes basically, and then my degree was like the pre-degree before you go into nursing and before you go into physical therapy. So I took anatomy. I took um, what was some of the tough ones? Yeah, all those health classes that were really hard. So, and then I'm doing nothing with that now. And then if I want to go into something later, these classes it's been too long of a gap. So I don't know. I studied hockey there.
You're not the only one. A lot of people, they have degrees that they'll never use, or they change 2 years after being out of college. But so after college, you had 4 years at Utica College there. Um, First year, I would say full year. I know you signed in Allen to end your senior year there in the East Coast, got some games in. But I want to talk about, so we obviously met each other this year at camp in Rapid City
Mhm.
for the Rush. Um, how was that first year for you, transitioning? So you've just been in the college game, and now you're going to the East Coast, the grind, the cheese toast, as they say. And back then too, it was still that, your third line had probably two, maybe three guys who were gonna get a fight in every game. I remember some tough guys that were in Rapid City, like Anthony Collins was there, I believe. That guy could throw.
Yeah, he was my
Um,
line mate. So
so Miglio, you were a tough guy, is what you're saying. No, just kidding. So how was that first experience for you? Obviously, I was only there for camp with you, but you had kind of had some games before, as I said, in Allen. Like, did that kind of help you? And then you were ready for that full first experience?
definitely, I went down to Allen and got some experience, which that opened my eyes. Like I knew guys were better than where I was playing, but I didn't realize how good. And so I stayed up in Utica that whole summer after school and after those 7 games and skated like every day to get ready because I knew it was like I got that taste of pro hockey and I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. Like this is amazing. It's a great lifestyle. And I always wanted to play pro hockey, but now it's like a reality and like I could grasp it. But yeah, I went in to camp there on a tryout as well. I wasn't signed or anything. Um, and it was a amazing experience. Like I learned a lot. We weren't a good team, but we had a lot of older pros, so I learned a lot from them. But it was a stressful year, like going into camp too on a tryout. Like I wasn't sure if I was going to make the team. It was a really stressful situation. They were releasing guys left and right, and guys with contracts were getting released. And um, luckily, I ended up sticking around and making the team. And guys were getting sent down from the AHL. So every day I'm on the ECHL, AHL transactions page and looking who Tucson was our AHL affiliate, seeing who Phoenix would release to Tucson and seeing who Tucson would release. And this was all the way up until like November, December. And I'm still like looking at, okay, what guy's going to get sent down? Like, did I get put on reserve? Is that what it was? You
I
could
think
get put on
so.
reserve,
Yeah.
which I knew if you got put on that, you knew you were scratched the next day. And it was great though. Like I'm happy that I stuck around and got that full year under my belt, but it was stressful. But at the same time, it was amazing. Like I went to getting a paycheck consistently for the first time in my life, year round and every couple of weeks, and it was no money at the time. Like I think I was clearing $370 every 2 weeks, like after taxes, and that was more money than I'd ever seen before. Like when I was home in the summer, I'd get, 50, $100 from my parents here and there and occasionally deliver pizzas or mow lawns. But no, it was a great time. And I went from, living in a college, like trap hockey house, like a party house to brand new apartment with marble countertops and, no, it was a great experience. I loved it and the whole traveling thing and being on the road and getting per diem and everything. And it was a blast. Like I really enjoyed it.
Just looking back at the roster here, like I remember that year, if you included the guys who were there on tryouts for the goalies, I think there was like 10 goalies throughout the year. I mean, Aiden Hill just won a Stanley Cup, was there.
Uh,
I think Patterson started with Lotes and Chuck Grant, and Chuck lasted, I think, 2 weekends or something. Like it was just crazy for me
It
to see.
was every game we had a new goalie, and like I think
Yeah.
Aiden Hill started the season for us. He came down, he lived with me. It was really funny. I wasn't playing that first game. I was the only or one of the only rookies on the team at that point, or that wasn't in the lineup. But I picked him up from the airport, and then I think, or maybe he was there like a day before or something, but I was asking him, like, I knew he was drafted and everything. And I was like, what do you want to do? Like, it was game day. I wasn't playing. I got my workout in the morning. I was like, what do you normally do on a game day? I was like, I was his chauffeur. I was like, whatever you want to do. Like, I got nothing to do. And he's like, yeah, I usually go and shop before games. And I was like, go shopping. I was like, we're in Rapid City, South Dakota. Like, there's a Macy's and a Best Buy. I was like, that's all you could really get into. I was like, where do you want to go? He's like, they don't have a Lulu here, do they? He's like, that's all. I usually go to Lulu and spend money before the game. And yeah, he lived in my apartment. He went. We took him to Walmart. He bought a huge flat screen TV and a big like entertainment center to put it on, like glass, like really nice. Played that game, then got called back up, and I think he maybe came down a couple more times. But I texted him because we hadn't seen him in a month. I'm like, hey, what do you want to do with this TV and entertainment center? He's like, just keep it. I don't care. And I was like, okay, so he's got that kind of money right now. NHL check.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. It was pretty surreal seeing him like play, and then I don't know. I thought he should have won the Conn Smythe. He was played out of his mind. Like, really cool and really small world to see like goalies in the ECHL or sometimes SPHL, like Scott Darling, right? And then go up and win a cup. And yeah, it's a crazy sport and one of the only ones that something like that could happen.
Oh, for sure. He's got a great story, and I highly doubt in his mind if you told him that, hey, in 7 years you're going to win a Stanley Cup for Las Vegas, who at that time was never even thought of having a team. He
Mm-hmm.
probably would tell you you're crazy. But back to you. So after that season, you end up in Peoria the next year, and then it starts to what I've talked about with the grind, with just the being an undrafted, unsigned, basically, unless you're on like an AHL two-way or kind of thing player, you're just getting these call-ups. Or you went to Norfolk, you went to Kansas City, you went to Colorado. They were an ECHL team back then, the Eagles. Like, how was that for you mentally? Like being a guy, like, because it's got to be like at some point, like kind of frustrating, both physically and mentally, like just kind of living out of your suitcase, not knowing how long am I going to stay here? Is my bag going to be packed when I get in tomorrow, kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like I said from the year before, very stressful, like always looking and it kind of took me by surprise. Like, I had a full year under my belt and I tore my ACL in April of that year with Rapid City. So I had surgery through them. It was all covered, did my rehab. It's probably a 9 month surgery or and recovery process, and I made it back in 6 months, six and a half. So when the time I had surgery on the day of our last game in Rapid City, and then I was ready to go in training camp. And maybe I wasn't 100%, maybe I was 90%, but I skated all summer, and they released me in camp. Like, the day I signed my release waiver and said, yeah, I'm cleared, I'm good to play. They released me, which caught me by surprise because I was re-signed as a returner and one of like the seven guys returning to that team. So yeah, I went to Peoria. I kind of, since I had a full year of in the coast under my belt, I could kind of pick what team I wanted to go to, and I wanted to go somewhere where I was going to get better. And Peoria seemed like a really good team, and we had a lot of good players. Like, everyone knocks that league, but I mean, we had guys from Miami of Ohio. We had a guy from, I think, Boston College. Like, we had a very good team, and there's some very good players. And Jean-Guy Trudel was my coach there. He was a very skilled French Canadian. I think he played some show games, but he was one of the best coaches I've ever had as far as practices run. Like, everything was upbeat, skills, systems. Like, I don't know, you walk in before a game and he had 50 things on the board for face-off plays, for traps, for everything. But no, it was a very tough year. Like I said, like always checking the transaction pages and yeah, living out of a suitcase. I was living out of my car, so I didn't want to be stranded and without a car. So every time I got called up, I would pack everything. Like, I packed and did everything with the notion in my head that I was never getting sent down. So I would bring all my stuff, all my bedding, and I don't travel lightly. Like, I've got sheets and TVs and coffee cups and blenders and crock pots and all this stuff. So I'm going from place to place and apartment to apartment. And yeah, it was a very, very long year, but it made me stronger mentally and Learned a lot from it, met a lot of friends. I called it the Tour de ECHL. So I did from Rapid City to Peoria to all the way out east to Norfolk, Virginia, back to Peoria, Kansas City, back to Peoria, and then Colorado, and then back home to Texas. So I put on some miles that year.
Yeah, I mean that's just crazy. Obviously, as you said, you learned a lot. It taught you kind of how to persevere, build on that mental strength. I just looked at the Peoria roster and I'm just laughing inside. You played with Mr. SPHL himself, Peter DeSalvo.
Yeah.
He so he's my age. He was first goalie taken in the OHL draft. Had a good OHL career. And then I think he was in, I don't know how many years. I think he finally is done now, but he played at least like 10, 11 years there. And I think he has the record, does he not, for most games?
Probably, yeah. I know there was another goalie when I was there, Eric Levine.
Yeah.
Uh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. He
He
went
was
to
there.
Robert Morris, I thought.
And
Yeah.
he has played like same thing, like however many years. I think he might have just retired, but he won. They won a cup like 2 years ago, which was cool because they were in the finals like every year, and they
Mm-hmm.
just didn't close it out. But yeah, there were some big names, and then there were also some gong shows in that league. Like it was a big difference between the top and bottom guys, and it was fun. Like we played in some big arenas and had some good crowds, and I was there like trying to get out of there, which I had fun, and I was a veteran guy even on that team with 1 year under my belt. But I still felt like I had a veteran presence and learned a lot from that coach. And I'm happy that I went there, and it's another story or another chapter in the book.
No, sometimes you need it, honestly. Like I've said this before I signed in the Dell 2, I'd had a good year on a bad team in Norway and I couldn't find a job. And that's when we met each other in Rapid City. And then later that year, just because a buddy got traded to Fayetteville, I went to Fayetteville and was fully content with, hey, I'm going to play here this year. And then maybe next year, if I have a good year, I'll go back to France because I'd played in that top league a couple times or for 2 years. And, I was there luckily 2 weekends and randomly the Del 2 opportunity came. So I think sometimes it's definitely given a bad label. It's better hockey than people give it credit for. And sometimes you just need a reset. It's better to get ice time than to, like you said, in Rapid City, you were looking every day, hey, am I in the lineup? Am I going on reserve? And sometimes, when you go to Peoria, you're put in better situations, going to get more
Yeah, I
ice
was
time,
on
power
the
play.
power play and
Yeah.
first time penalty kill, and I knew I was in the lineup, so gave me a chance to get some confidence back. And yeah, there were some good players there, like I said, but no, sometimes you need that. And it's funny, like I was probably making more money there than I was in the coast because in the coast you have your players dues and your union
Mm-hmm.
dues, PHPA stuff, and yeah, and I know that there's guys who are making double what I was making there. Like they could play in the coast and have a real good career there, but they want to be in one spot and not have to worry about AHL guys, and they'll go and make double, triple what they make in the East Coast to play in that league. So yeah, it's fun, and you play in some cool cities too, like down in the South and um, Memphis, and Memphis, and where the Volunteers at? The Tennessee, that's in
Knoxville.
Knoxville, crazy city. Like I couldn't believe that. And then Peoria, Illinois. Like that was a team before I signed or officially signed my contract in Rapid City. That was a team that I was looking at going to. I had a tender, I think is what it was, or tryout agreement with them. So I looked at it when I went to Rapid City. I was like, okay, if I don't make it in Rapid City, I was like, I'm gonna go live on the beach in Pensacola, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
$1 million apartments, like beachfront, like white sand. So I was like, all right, win-win. Like I play in a higher league, I get a little bit more money and better hockey. But if not, then I go live on the beach and enjoy myself. So
No, it's not bad as you said. Um, and then after that year, you decide to head over to Europe. Your first stint of two in Selb, and then you went to Essen to finish this year. I was always curious, what made you personally, I don't want to say take too long, but just knowing you as a player, like you have tremendous speed and you have good size and you're physical as well. So like a guy like yourself being able to go play on Olympic ice versus, in the coast and SPHL, most rinks I would assume are NHL smaller. Like, what made you kind of want to try the North American route first before heading over to Europe?
I just didn't know any better, and I think you have to have like some sort of resume or background in the U.S. to get over there, unless you're going to play in like some sixth or seventh league or something somewhere and make no money. But no, my dad was always insistent on that. He had known guys from San Antonio that had gone over to Germany and coach, or guys when they left the AHL still lived here in San Antonio. They would go play in the Dell and then come back, and they always just talked about how much they loved it. There's a Mike Green that I know. He's not the Mike Green, but he's the second Mike Green, I guess. And he played for the Rampage here. He was one of the stars. I coach his son now here in San Antonio, but he had left San Antonio. He went and played in the Dell, and he would always come back and tell stories and how much he loved it and stuff. So that was always in the back of my mind. And my dad always wanted that as well. And our senior, no, it was my junior year at Utica. That's another selling point that they have for recruiting to get guys there is we take a trip every 4 years. So each class gets to go once. But you go over to Europe and we spend a week there. We flew into Munich and then we drove and spent most of the time in Bled, Slovenia. And we played against some pro teams like Olimpiana, Ljubljana. I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
to say that. It's the Slovenian team. Now they're in the Alps League, but we played 2 or 3 scrimmage games against them. And that's good for them for preseason. And then we get to see the lifestyle and how they're living and get to experience European hockey. And it's funny, like I wasn't much of a points guy in college, but when we went over to Europe and played, and I was like leading the team in points and stuff and played well. And it's just the Olympic ice, I think, for me, and the lifestyle too, like waking up, going to have a coffee, walking around the old town, and having a crepe or something. And I don't know, I loved it. It was a blast.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it seemed like it kind of fit your game more. And, your first full year there, you had 56 points and 41 games between the two teams. And then you made a quick stop back in Wichita before heading back over to Germany, 3 there, and then obviously found a home in Selb. One of the questions I had for you, obviously, you know, first I'll say when you went back to Selb, was there always talk, hey, we're gonna get to the second league, like that's our goal, like we want to get promoted?
Yeah, I mean, every team that I was on, that was always like when we talked contracts or when my agent at the time would talk contracts with these teams, they would always say, like, you're going to get a big bonus if we win or if we get promoted. And I'm just like looking at the rosters and teams, and I'm like, man, there's no chance. Like maybe on a team here or there, I'd see stuff, but it was always like the 3 teams, like Rosenheim, um, Hanover Scorpions, or some of these other teams. And I was just like, there's no way we're going to beat these teams. And like, but that year going into Zell, like I realized, like, I had a lot of confidence and I was, about a goal a game at that time. And then I saw, like, okay, we're bringing in Brad Snetzinger, and he was player of the year before. He put up like 100 points, and the next closest guy was 80 or 70 or something like that. And I saw some of the guys we were bringing in, but it was in talks, and every team is serious about it. I just really didn't. Um, look too much at that at the time. I never really, I don't know how to say it, but it wasn't like a reality. Like I never won a championship. I'd played in maybe 3 playoff games. So yeah, it was, everyone always wants that. That's the goal at the beginning of the year.
And before we talk about obviously you guys in your historic season and the Del 2 promotion and Selb, I wanted to ask you, so once you got over to Europe, you're putting up points each year in the third league there, as I said, 57 points, then 51 in half a season, and then 67 in Selb. Were you were you ever getting frustrated, or like what kept pushing you to train every summer to want to get better, that you weren't maybe getting other opportunities? Like no one in the Del 2 was giving you a sniff, or a team in another league at a higher league wasn't calling and being like, hey, like would you like to come play for us? Because obviously, if they see you on video, they see that you're obviously such a dynamic player, as I said, very good with your speed. But was it ever getting frustrating to you being like, hey, like, I see this guy signing the Dell too, and like I'm doing this and I've been in this country. Like, how come I'm not getting these opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, maybe I backtrack a little bit and tell my kind of story that first year too, and that'll kind of lead into it. So I went over and I had there was an agent that knew an AHL coach over here that Greg Ireland is his name. He coached in San Antonio. Everything always comes back to San Antonio. So my dad worked for worked for the Rampage for a bit, doing stuff with their equipment, cleaning stuff. But he knew him and always kept in touch. And he ran little skates in the summer, and I knew his son and stuff and trained him. Anyways, long story short, he had an agent that he put me in touch with that was in Germany, and he's like, "Hey, come over here. We have a tryout opportunity with the Hanover Indians." And I was like, "Yeah, great. I'll go there." And I was thinking it was like an actual tryout. And luck, I didn't know it. I flew over. I brought all my stuff. Like I said, I brought 5, 6 bags. Like I was moving over there for the year. And I said I was going to fly my way over there because my mom's a flight attendant. So I got really cheap airline flights and flew over, got picked up, and show up the first day of training camp and meet the owner of the team. And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm here for the tryout." And he was like, "There is no tryout." And they had 2 imports already because in the Oberliga at that time you're allowed 2, and it was Branyo Pahanka and Chase Norrish. And so then I call this agent. I'm like, why'd you send me here? I was like, they're full on import players, and they were waiting on Pahanka, their captain, to get his German pass, and that's why they flew me over there. So I'm like, all right, I'm already in Germany. Like, what am I doing over here? And the coach, Lenny Socho, at the time was like, yeah, you can skate and do 2 weeks of training camp with us, and then you're kind of gonna have to go on your way because we have a season. So yeah, luckily enough, Zelb called me or called my agent and was like, "Hey, you can come here for a month and a half." Their import Ryan McDonough broke his hand the day before in a car accident coming over to Zelb, so you can come do training camp and start the first half of the season with us. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm already over here. Like, got nothing else." So that kind of just like fell into my lap. I don't think they wanted to pay for or wait for somebody to fly over and fly back, and I was already in the country, so that worked out. So yeah, I had a really good training camp there, and we played preseason games. And like first 3 games, I had like hat trick, hat trick, hat trick, and I was like, all right, I like Germany. It's fun. And then season started, and I couldn't score a goal. I was hitting 5 posts, 6 posts a game, like getting breakaways, and just couldn't score. I mean, I had 8 assists in 7 games and had confidence. I just didn't score. And then when McDonough was healthy again, his first game back, he put up 4 or 5 points, and that was kind of it for me. They weren't going to sign me because they would have to pay him out or release him, and I was on a temporary contract. So yeah, I went to Bayreuth, and this is kind of where the story got funny. Like I went there for a tryout, which was 40 minutes down the road from Zelb, and was skating with them, skated with Jarvalainen, and was there for 2.5, 3 weeks. And they're the 14th place team out of 14 or whatever it was at the time. They're losing every game 6-0, 5-1, like. And yeah, I just wasn't even getting a sniff in a game, nothing. Like I was just there skating with the team. It was like me and like some junior kid wearing a cage, and then some like defenseman forward whose dad like had something to do with the team. And that was my line while I was in Bayreuth on a tryout. And yeah, so like to what you said, that was kind of like my intro. And then later on, like I signed in Essen, and that was a um, full season contract, and I finished the year there. But seeing like when I was in Bayreuth, like I could be an import there and play. Yeah, it made me work hard, and I was frustrated, obviously, and I always tried to get looks into the Dell 2, but my agent at the time said you're never going to play in the Dell 2 unless you put up 2 points a game in the Oberliga, or unless you he just basically said it's not going to happen, and that's why I later ended up firing him. And then yeah, so if that kind of makes sense and answers your question.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to dive in there. Just I know personally because I was still playing in the league. That was my last year. I think that was the first year that they demolished the I don't know how to say this. Like there was a loophole to get guys over.
Hmm.
So when I came over, I was on a full year contract, but they told the media, oh, he's only in a 4-game tryout. So they didn't have to spend a license on me. You get 4 games. If they want to keep you, then they pay the license fee. If they don't, gas you. Like we had guys coming out. And I think that was the first year where they got rid of that and you can only have 6 licenses.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a huge thing for the GMs being like, hey, normally we've signed 4 imports to start the season. So you have 2 left. If they sign someone like you and it doesn't work out, then they have 1 license left to either fix that or fix an injury or whatever. So it's obviously different that way. But it's funny, I didn't know that. Like it's crazy how, you went on a little roller coaster there and then,
I
obviously
moved to Germany because I was sick of the traveling, and then I was just doing it in another country. And instead of doing it with my car like I wanted to, I was doing it on the ICE train. Oh man, I was like a walking gong show. I had my hockey bag, I had like 5 sticks taped together, and I had my like duffel bag full of like my Xbox and electronics, and then I had my huge like roller suitcase, and I'm trying to go in and out of the trains. And then I don't know, I'm booking this stuff myself. So I'm going on a big like, kind of like a plane type train, and then I get onto like a city train, and I'm still like, it's like there's no room for my luggage. I'm literally like sitting on my bags, and people are like stepping over me, and it was yeah, just another story.
been there, man, done that for sure. But then as you said, so eventually you get rid of your agent, which is a point I
Mhm.
want to get to later. But then you come back after going to Wichita briefly, you go to Hala. Um, I know the story of what happened there. Not sure if we want to say it, but
I mean, doesn't
pretty
matter.
funny one.
Yeah, that was kind of why I fired my agent too. He was not getting me the money I thought I deserved, and um, didn't really have big plans for me. Like as I did, he kind of looked at me as just a number, and I wasn't happy. He couldn't get me a job. Like even after my year in Essen, he couldn't get me a job, and um, yeah, I had a contract in Halle, and um, I was, I was almost a goal a game, and I was one of the top guys. And the coach kept. We had 3 imports, so me, Chris Francis, and Mosienko at the time, and we were kind of. Played the full season with Francis, and then when Mosienko was healthy again, he came back, and it was kind of me and him. And then we started having these little tryout weekends and stuff, and played the pre-playoffs, beat Essen, my former team, and then the playoffs came, and he said we're going to go with the other two, and I was the only one re-signed, and I was just like, I'm the only player re-signed or the only import, and you're going to play the other two. Like this doesn't make sense. Like I feel like I'm being disrespected, and I led the team in points during that time that I was there too. Like how, so I just felt like it wasn't the opportunity, and then luckily ended up talking back with Zelb again, and yeah, it was the best thing that ever happened. And the COVID hit that year, and the season got canceled. There was no playoffs. So it was like kind of the perfect ending for me. I didn't have to sit in the stands and watch my team play playoffs.
couple couple Hellbrunner Falcons on your team that year. My buddy Kyle Helms,
Yeah, great guy.
unbelievable guy. He
Always comes to the rink with a smile on his face, and yeah, great guy. I still keep in touch with him.
Yeah, I talk to him too sometimes. He honestly, when I moved to Heilbronn, his family took me in because they were another thing they do in Germany. If people don't know this, a lot of times when you get apartments, the people that had the apartment before, they take their whole kitchen with them. And when I mean whole kitchen, I mean everything. I mean the cupboards, I mean the oven. So like I moved into this brand new apartment, I had no oven, and our equipment manager had to build it when he was done working at the rink all day with us. So like it took a month. So the Helmses took me in. I joked they were like my second parents. So I was eating meals there every night, allowing me to use their internet. So they were great people. And then also Mark Heatley was there.
Oh yeah,
So he was with me my second year. Another good
I was
guy.
pumped to go to Hala. I looked at their roster, and I remember Francis was like the year before when I was in Essen. He came in and was putting up, like over a point a game or like 3 points a game. I think his first game there, he played against Tilburg and had a hat trick. And yeah, I saw Heatley was there, and when I was in Bayreuth, Heatley had the gold helmet. So I was like, man, this team's gonna be sick. And then I get there, and Heatley's like nowhere to be found. And I was like, where's Mark at? Like we're on the ice first practice, and one of the guys points, and he's running bleachers in the stands. And I was like, what is he doing? And they're like, yeah, they want to kick him out, but he's not gonna go. So they're just making him run bleachers every day until until he decided to quit. And then we got a new coach. Herbert Hohenberger was there, and he ended up leaving. And then we brought in a new guy. I can't even remember his name. And yeah, they gave him another chance, and then I think he ended up finishing the year there with Bad Tolls. I think is that sound right? Heatley left from, yeah, I think because he went to the Dell too, and after that. But yeah, it was a interesting place, Hala.
He's I have a hilarious story of him. Like, great guy. This guy every morning's either eating sushi or salmon with bread in the room. But one morning we were getting ready for a road trip, and our coach back then was very big on lifting on game days. And when I mean lifting, I mean lifting heavy. So, anyways, so we had a meeting, and we were supposed to lift before the meeting, and Heatley just was like, "No, I'm good. I'll chill at home." And so he missed the meeting. Didn't work out, and then he showed up 30 minutes before the bus was going to leave to work out, and just like it was like watching him and the coach have a conversation was hilarious because he's just like Heatley's just like, "What do you mean? I'm doing the workout. You want me to work
Yeah,
out today? I'm doing the workout. Like, what's wrong?" And like, the coach is just like, "Okay, whatever. I don't even want to get into this. Like, it's just that's just how he is. Like, he's on his own page at
yeah.
times."
He
But
no, he was. Every time I've been with him or seen, he's just on his own. Like super nice guy, but
yeah,
on his own page for sure. And yeah, the guys in Hala, like the Germans, didn't really understand him, and they didn't. Wouldn't say didn't like him, but they just, I don't know. They didn't understand him. Like they always called him the garlic man. He was always eating like raw garlic for the health benefits on the bus, and yeah, he had like 50 pairs of steel, and he was always going through like changing him. He'd be looking at him before the games, and a different guy, but really, really skilled and good centerman, and yeah, it was fun to play with him.
really smart guy too. Like, he's talking to him just about like school and like business and stuff. Like, he was really smart that way. One thing I wanted to circle back to just because I was wanted to bring it up, and this is another reason why I want Javi on the podcast, because you're like outside the stigma of this, and like, it's not to be negative on the podcast, but it's true. It's very rare that an overleague import's gonna make it to the Del 2, because of once you get to the Del 2, like the pool of imports available are guys who played like AHL, Coast, high leagues in Europe. So it's a bigger risk to take those guys. It's nothing against those guys. Some of them might be better than those guys. It's just the reality of the situation. And you yourself, obviously, your agent didn't really believe in you, but you did what allowed you to get an opportunity. And now you're known for being a Del 2 import, was winning with your team. So let's talk about the season with Selb, where you guys obviously won and got promoted to the Del 2.
Yeah, it was like the dream year minus a couple things. So it was right after that first wave of COVID. So we weren't sure if there was going to be a season. And I was so excited. I signed a big new contract that I was really excited about. And going back to Zelb, it was when I left there after those 8 games, like they wanted me and they wanted to keep me, but they had, like I said, McDonough under contract, and it just they would have had to pay him out, and it wouldn't have worked out. And there had always been like talks here and there between my agent or me about getting back, and then finally I was back, and I felt like I really enjoyed my time there, and I really liked everyone, like Peter Pollen, and I remember Lanny and a bunch of guys there. Like I really enjoyed my time there, and I just it's a small town. I just wasn't sure if I was ever going back, so I was happy to be going back, but it was COVID, so we went there in like October, I think, thinking the season was going to start right away, and then it got pushed back another 3 weeks, and we were skating maybe secretly. Like I think we were allowed to skate once a week, and we were skating 3 times a week. But I think every team was doing that, and we were. I don't think you were legally allowed to get paid at the time, and we had started our contracts and some. But anyways, there was. Yeah, we started the season on time, and there were no fans, or I think there were maybe like we were allowed 500 for the first couple of games, and then right away, like for the majority of the season, no fans. But yeah, we lost our first game of the year to Regensburg. We lost 2-1, and my big thing was like me and my dad talked about it. My dad, not really my agent, but he's kind of like my advisor. Like he played pro sports for a while, and he understands stuff and he understands the game. But we talked about like, and it was talked about when I was in Zell before, was I didn't score when I was there. I had 7 games and 8 assists. I mean, I knew I could score, and immediately when I left Zelb and went to S, and I was like goal, hat trick, or whatever. And yeah, my big thing was getting off to a hot start in Zelb. Like I wanted to score the first game, and I did. I scored the first game of the season and first goal of the season, and yeah, we lost 2-1 that game to Regensburg, and then next game we go to Fusen, which is a team that we should beat, and we were down 2-0 to them with like I don't know 2 or 3 minutes left in the third period, and we had gone in. We had like called a timeout, and pulled the goalie, and we ended up scoring 2 quick goals and then one in overtime. But we went on our phones after the game, and we're looking, and how like the fans are in Zelb, and they're really passionate, and they had posted something halfway through the third period, and um, it was like 0-2 to start the season. And it was like this team, because they brought in me, they brought in Snetzinger, we'd signed some other guys, and we were supposed to be like a favorite for the league that year, and it was a big thing, like starting the year 0-2, but we won that second game. Um, and from then on, I think we won like 15 in a row or something, and we never lost another game in the regular season at home. And yeah, it was a special year. I just caught fire. I was kind of scoring every game there. I think I was over a goal a game for a majority of the season, and playing with Lanny Gare, veteran, experienced guy, and then Steven Deeg. It was like a dream year. Like we had very good chemistry, and Lanny was really responsible and would win draws and kind of hang back because he knew I would want to cheat and get breakaways, and he just sauce it into the neutral zone, and I would kind of chase it down and go for breakaways. And yeah, it was a really fun year.
Fun year, and obviously, as you said, you guys got it done in the end. Beating Hanover, I believe, in the finals there. Seen a lot of pictures,
Mhm.
funny moments. Some guys didn't take their equipment off.
Yeah.
But no, to back to what you said, like obviously I've worked in Selb. It's a great little city. Like if anyone who enjoys like little cities, like I know me personally, if I had the choice between a big city or a little one, I prefer the little just because of where I've grown up in my life. And the fans are passionate. They're there every game. They're cheering whether you're winning or losing. It's a great place, and I'm happy that the team has been able to stay in the Del 2 now. Obviously, they've kind of hung on that first year, dealt with a lot of COVID, a lot of other stuff, players coming in, coming out, and then even last year, we made some strides, and now this year it looks like you guys are going to have an even better team on paper, adding some really big names there. But back to you, I wanted to ask you, this is a little funny question, talking about Selb. How does it feel to be such a big celebrity there? Like every time I'm with you, we would go to coffee, go to dinner, whatever. There's someone who recognizes, and you just hear them under their breath. That's just Nick Miglio, and so how does that feel? Kind of.
It's funny. It's really funny. That's kind of like you were saying about the big city versus the big, yeah, big city versus the small town, is like you don't probably get that in Dresden or in I don't know, maybe not even Heilbronn or some of these other I'm trying to think of other teams. Like you probably don't get that, but Zell, I mean, it's a city of like what, 14,000, 10,000, maybe even if that. So yeah, like everywhere we go, we've got the Selber Wolf cars and our logos and stuff. And yeah, they think like we're NHL there. And I had a few good years there, being the top scorer for a couple years, and then winning a championship and all that. So yeah, it's pretty funny. Like I always laugh, like because it happens if I'm with the other guys, or um, my girlfriend at the time now, Brittany, or even with my family. But it's really funny. Like I get a kick out of it.
Another thing I want to talk to you about, you just mentioned it, like you had an agent and then you got rid of him. Like now I believe you still represent yourself. Like how has that been for you? Like why do you do that? Because especially now with these working in the Dell too, like some guys, it's frustrating having to deal with like if a team lowballs you, you feel like you need more, like not take it personally, where it's sometimes you have someone else representing. It's just because like you're one of those people like who knows me better than me, and this is my life, so I want to be the one handling my business.
Yeah, that, and then I don't know, like when I was in Hala, like guys talk in the locker room, obviously, and they know like, oh, this guy's making this and this guy's making this, and just the numbers that were getting to my agent and then getting to me, and I'm looking across the room at a guy with half the amount of points and a quarter of the goals of me, and he's making X amount of dollars more, and I'm like, how am I not getting that money? So I like basically said like told my agent like it's no disrespect or hard feelings. It's a business, and I feel like I can represent myself more. And I talked to guys about what they negotiated in their contracts and little things, and I was like, you know what, I can do this. Like as long as I have someone to translate for me or whatever at the time, like I can do this because I know what I'm worth, like compared to the other players. And I found out like what a lot of the top guys were making. I knew what I was making. Um, and then like I kind of like did do like little weird things too. Like my mom, like I said, my mom's a flight attendant, so I negotiate that into my contract and say I want, an extra however many dollars a month or whatever. Then I say, okay, I'll pay for my flights over, or I can get my flight for, $500 instead of you guys paying 1,500 bucks. Like let's add that extra money to my contract, or I want my own, like in Zelb, I wanted my CCM helmet. So I say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I don't know. I was able to negotiate for myself and freely speak on what I wanted. And it ended up working out. It's a little intimidating going in there with an owner or a general manager and talking. But like at the end of the day, like I don't know, I'm fighting for my life or what I believe in. So it's all worked out, and it's kind of cool at the same time, like saying that I've done my own contract. So
Yeah, who knows? Could be steps for life after hockey. It's funny the fact that you just brought that CCM helmet, that makes me laugh because that first year guy gets a CCM helmet put in his contract just to wear for practice because the gold helmet is a warrior that he has to wear in the game. So congratulations on that contract. Sal's probably like, wow, this guy's an idiot. He just wants to wear this in practice and in warm up. Like,
well, that's what they said too, and I literally wore it every game aside for like three or something. Yeah, it was nothing against Warrior. It has that sweat pad, like on the forehead, and then like in the third period when you start sweating a lot more, and you'll like kind of crinkle your forehead or like take a hit, and then water just drips down your face, and it gets all of your half shield, and you can't see. Or like in between periods, you take it off, and it gets cold, and you put it back on. It's just a cold, wet rag like on your forehead, and interesting concept. Like I get where they were going from with it. Like it soaks up the sweat, but it was just like they didn't think that one all the way through. So
it's all good, man. You don't have to sell it to me. As you can see, I'm currently wearing a CCM shirt,
yeah.
so we're on the same page. So Nick Miglio, how long do you see yourself playing for? You're 31 years old. So what's the goal? Do you have a plan for that, or just kind of taking it, contract to contract at the moment?
Yeah, contract to contract. So I have another 2 years. I signed a 2 year extension, as you know, in November of this past year. So definitely looking to fulfill that and play that and stay in Zelb. And then we were talking a little bit before off the podcast. If I'm able to get my German passport, that would mean longevity for me as well, not just for like um I don't know, it's job security. Like I'm not an import anymore, so I'm not fighting to be on a team of four or a spot of four. I have 16 other spots I can play for as a German. So definitely feel great. Love the game, enjoy coming to the rink every day. So want to play as long as I can, and it's the best job in the world. Like you work 3 hours a day, and is that, if you really call that work, it's work. And then you kind of have the rest of the day to play Xbox and hang out and do whatever. I mean, I'm happy. I love it. My body feels great. So yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna take it contract to contract, but I'm loving what I do.
No, it's very true. A lot of people forget to enjoy the moment. They forget to, you know, it's not the NHL. I've said this before, but everyone has their own goals in life, their own highlights. And yeah, like you're getting paid to do something you love and to go to the rink for 3-4 hours a day, and the rest of the day you can do what you want. And you obviously take care of your body. So I think you'll be on the longer side of longevity. And also, as you said, if you get that German passport, like that just adds another thing to your resume and also brings more money because good German players like yourself, they're more expensive, then the bidding war starts. So I hope you can get it. Have you thought at all whenever one day, we all have to stop playing one day, like what's next for you? Have you thought about that at all, or is it still just kind
A
of
little bit here and there, and I always get asked that question. Like people that are like older friends that are concerned, like, what are you going to do after hockey? And yeah, I've thought about it here and there, but you can't really plan for life. Like I've kind of learned that since like college and even before, like you kind of have a plan in mind, but different things happen. So maybe I'd like to get into coaching or like doing an agent thing or something along those lines. Like I really want to stay in the game. And my dad still coaches baseball, and he's 62 now. He's been out of the game for however many years, and um, yeah, I mean, I love the game and I want to stick around it. But I've also met some really well off people who have businesses and connections that I'm going to reach out to as well. So I kind of have a couple different routes I can go. I mean, I have my college degree. We'll see, whatever makes me happy, or I'll test out a couple things. But I think the first thing I want to try is probably coaching. But we'll see. Who knows?
well, it's good at different avenues, different ideas. Guys like us, I think down the road, if you can have multiple streams of income, that's always good. I do know that you could possibly start as a lawyer somewhere. We have been in court together. Another another Nick
That's
Miglio.
your
So,
forte, not mine.
I don't know. You didn't get off it, so I'm 0 for 1 on right now in my cases. But um, two more questions for you, and then I'll let you go here. When you look back at your career so far, obviously it's still going, so you're not done yet. But when you look back at it, did you think you would have the career you've had so far and played in the places you have?
Definitely not. Like I'm, like you said, breaking the mold. Like I'm lucky to be where I am now. Like I'm very, very fortunate, and I've kind of just gotten opportunities and made the most of them and ran with them. Like I was not even a top 5 player on my college team or a top 10 player. I was my junior year going into my senior year. My coach said, "Hey, I recruited to replace you. So when you come back, you do not have a spot on this team." And I thought he was joking. I came back and was on the team, but I was not in the top 5 lines. I was on the 6th line, like with myself and like another freshman who like had a torn ACL or something. So I was one of 3 seniors, and first night of our senior year, I was in the lineup, and it was kind of a slap in the face. So I went out and fought our 6'4" junior captain, and then from then on out, I let the coach know like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm not messing around." And no, I feel very fortunate. Like this past weekend, I was playing in a men's league tournament, and there were some guys in the Federal Hockey League on my team, and a goalie who plays Division 3 for Plymouth State. And just kind of looking back when I was, at their in their shoes at one point, like I never played that league, but just kind of like not having a place to go and how things kind of worked out from going Division 3 to where I am now. Like there's ex NHLers in this league, and in the same spot. I am very fortunate and very happy, but it's also not luck. Like I do work very hard. Like I'm in the gym every day and skating, and yeah, I feel very blessed and thankful to be doing what I'm doing.
It's a good way to look at it for sure. And last one here. This is what I ask all our guests, kind of for the younger generation, people listening. So if there was one piece of advice, or maybe multiple pieces if you have them, you would give your younger self, what would they be? So if you were talking to Nick Miglio back when he's 16, 17, 18 years old, what what kind of advice would you give him?
Yeah, it's a tough one. But I think these are all things that I was told at a young age and kind of ran with them because I thought they make sense. So the first one was like treat everyone with respect, like treat the Zam guy at the rink with the same respect that you would treat your owners. Learn people's names and be nice to everyone, whether they're, like a janitor at the rink or whatever, like be nice because you never know. Same with the equipment managers, like have respect for them, tip them, be nice to them. And then the other thing is like work hard and like don't take any days off. Like every day in practice, every drill, go 100% and work your bag off, because it pays off down the road. Like, maybe that you get 0.5% better every day, but that's in the long run, it's gonna add up, and kind of goes along with that. But dress for the job you want, not the job you have. So if you're going into interviews or doing stuff, or um, I don't know, I think that all kind of makes sense, and that's stuff that I've kind of lived by and um, tried to incorporate into my day-to-day life, is working hard and treating people right.
Oh, there's definitely good things to live by. And I think, as you said, it's clear that that stuff you've lived by, just how you treat people, your work ethic, how you treat the job, as you said, like enjoy it every day. These are reasons why. And it wasn't just started at pro hockey. This is something that was instilled in you from a younger age. And
Mhm.
this is why you've been able to shed that mold we talk about, the D3 mold, the Overliga import mold, the stigmas. You're one of few guys that have been able to do it and have success doing it. So that's definitely a testament to you as a person, not just as a hockey player, but as a person. So I'm hoping all the people listening, young listeners out there, that you take what Nick was saying, and this is, as I said, another guy that has defied the odds. And it doesn't matter if you take off at 18, take off at 24. Everyone has their own path. And I think that's what's important, and the reason that I try to have guests on every week. So, Nick, I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
yeah, it
We
was
didn't get to
good.
talk about my shirt too. This is a new. I don't know if it's in mirror mode or not, but Prost y'all. There's a little German town in Texas, like 45 minutes away. It's like they have an Allstat there. They have like a bunch of German breweries, and I saw it, and it was like the perfect mix of two worlds, Germany and Texas, and I had to pick this up. So
You can make your way down there and you can practice
yeah,
your German with them, get ready for your
yeah.
big test.
I tried. I tried talking to them. They didn't speak German. They didn't have any hellish beer, so I was really disappointed in them. And but I had my schnitzel and my sauerkraut and all that. So
No hell, it's just a pills, eh?
yeah, yeah, just water in the off season.
Yeah, for all those listening, water and water only.
And I wasn't drinking a beer. I was drinking a Pellegrino flavored water. So
I know, honestly, when we first went on, I was
not
like,
an
is he
addict.
drinking like a tequila something drink? And then I was like, no, it's a Pellegrino. No, but then I appreciate you coming on and telling your story, and it's still going. So I think that's great. And hopefully, hopefully this podcast is still going down the road. Maybe when you're done in your German and you're on to your next step, we can have you on, because I know your story, especially. We only got so much in. Like, there's still more to talk about. There's some funny stories. We can get into that lawyer story, how we're 0-1 in the courtroom down the road. But yeah, again, Nick, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and congrats on the wedding and everything. And hopefully we'll see you soon in Zelb, or if not, in Germany in the next few months.
Yeah, I'll come see some games for sure if I'm not back in cell. But appreciate it. And yeah, as always, for those listening, until next week, cheers and ciao.